It is Tuesday, June 20th, 2023, and the time is now 1:12 in the afternoon. And I just got done journaling, and I just woke up with the spirit of, I want to do my Father's will and nothing else. So I know Jesus said that in the Bible, so I went to look it up, and the verse was actually John 6:38, and I have it here with me. It reads, "For I have come down from heaven, not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me." And at first so to bring it back to last night, I usually write down like the things that I'm going to do for the next day. And I had a list of everything, that I planned to do for today. And I just woke up with the spirit of, I'm so grateful to be up, and I just want to give so much thanks to God. And I want to do what God wants me to do. Like, I want to put my stuff that I want to do for me on the back burner, and I just want to focus on what God wants me to do. So I just woke up and I was like, let me finally record, because it's been on my mind to record my podcast and I haven't done it yet. So I just woke up with the spirit of, let me record, let me get this word out, because this is what I feel like my Father wants me to do, is record my podcast. So the underlying thought process behind me doing a podcast was to initially study the word, read the word, and do kind of like a Bible study. So before, my friends would ask me to hold a Bible study group like over the phone, and I knew that I wasn't going to do that, just because I don't like the hassle of calling people up, setting a time and committing to that time, and everybody's schedule isn't the same. Like, I've ran Bible study groups before, and I just didn't want to do that at all. And I know everybody's schedule is different, and I wasn't going to do it, and I knew I wasn't going to do it. So I figured I can read the Bible and I can just record my thoughts. Great idea. Send it to my friends. Boom. So that's how I came up with the concept of I should just do a podcast. And I also want to read some books and just say my thoughts on them. So it'll be a Bible study, book club kind of thing going on. So what stopped me from recording was the idea of, what should I talk about? Like, what is my first episode going to be based on? I kept having thoughts like, I should say this, I should say that. Then I recorded things and I was like, I don't like that. I feel like I'm not being genuine. I feel like I'm not being myself. So I just prayed and I journaled, and I was just saying, Lord, you tell me what I should say. Because I know if you give me like the title or the jump on the first thing, then I could figure it out from there. So I feel like God was just telling me to share what I think about him and what he's done for me, and kind of give a timeline as to my experience with God and what is led up to and how I experience him now. So we got to take it back from 2023 all the way to 1996. It is January 3rd, and my mom is 16 years old, and she has just given birth to me. And I didn't know it then, of course, because I was a newborn, but my mom had come from a family of alcoholics, drug abusers, child molesters, rapists, child abusers, teenage pregnancy. It was just a childhood of just torment. And of course I didn't know at the time, but she told me that she took me into a closet and she prayed over me, and she just prayed that the generational experiences or patterns, basically curse that she experienced as a child, that it would end with me. And looking over my life and the things that I have been a witness to and gone through, I can honestly say that God has kept his promise with her. And just me learning about God now, I have discerned and learned that God is a promise keeper. Like, his promises are yes and amen. He has been keeping his promises since Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and he hasn't let up now. So of course, life is gonna life, and we're not gonna have nothing easy. but I can tell you my experiences growing up has been totally different from my mom's experiences as a child. And I'm eternally grateful that I didn't go through the things that she went through. But I also want to share the things that I have experienced in my lifetime, and to just point out where I see God's hand has been at work and how I got through the things that I've been through. So I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. I grew up in church. We went to church on Saturday, and I've been in church from a little girl up into, it's been some years. Like, I just recently stopped going to church, and I only stopped because of everything with COVID, and I just couldn't get back into rhythm of going to church. I also moved. I couldn't find a good church here, but I've been just studying on my own and reading the Bible and just developing a relationship with God to a point where I don't really feel necessary that I actually need to go to an actual building to praise and worship, but I have church all the time at home. But yeah, so we're going back. Born in church, raised in church, and my experience with God has changed drastically in different seasons and periods of my life. So elementary school, I went to a private school. It was a Christian Seventh-day Adventist school, and from first to fourth grade, I was there. Fifth grade, I transitioned into public school. And my experiences with school and with children that did not know Jesus was completely different. It was like a culture shock. These kids were bad. They were bad and not that smart. So I can definitely tell the difference between private school kids and public school kids. But this is my new life. This is where I'm at. This is, we couldn't afford private school anymore, so now we're in public school. I'm still going to church, but as a child, your relationship with God is, well, for me, it was very, I'm just going to church to have fun and to meet my friends, and at the time to be with my cousins, because my aunt would gather us all up and we would stay night at her house on Friday, and then Saturday we would go to church. So this was just a time for me to commune with my cousins. Middle school comes and I don't really go to church like that. I stopped. My mom, she kind of gave us the freedom to actually do a little bit more worldly things. So in middle school, I used to cheer. Before, I couldn't cheer because we would have games that were on Saturday. And remember, Saturday is the day that we worship. So I couldn't cheer in elementary school, or I couldn't do too much because activities would be on the day that we had to go to church. So middle school, my mom, she allows us to, participate in activities that the other kids are doing. And at the time, my ears weren't pierced, so she let me pierce my ears. This is us just getting out into the world and, doing things as little kids, as teenagers, of what everybody else in the community is doing. So that's middle school. I'm just out here. High school, I'm older, and I think I start to go back to church maybe around 10th grade. Probably, yeah. So 10th grade, I'm back in church. I get baptized in 11th grade, I believe. 11th or 12th grade. Towards the end of my high school journey, I get baptized. So my relationship with God, is getting stronger, but it's still in that fairly young stage. College, this is when it changed for me. Well, one of the drastic changes for me. So while I was in college, I joined a fellowship group, a Christian fellowship group, and my relationship with God had grown so much. I was in community with friends, with believers. I actually lived in community with people, and what that is we were in a house. It was a house full of girls, and we just basically, we worshiped together, we prayed together. We would have weekly meetings on how our week has been going and how we can help each other with developing a stronger relationship with God. So that was my walkout in college. I led a Bible study group for I think a year. I was over Black Student Ministries, which was, I was leading Bible study for Black kids basically. And we targeted Black kids because I went to a predominantly white school. So in college, I was going to church as well, and I felt the need to be baptized again. So I was in church one day and the pastor was pastoring and he just, he called for, I think it was a day that people were already, getting baptized. And he just called for anybody in the audience if they wanted to, give their life to Christ. So I just felt the need to get up, and I ended up giving my life to Christ again for the second time, getting baptized. And I don't know if some of my listeners have been baptized or have not. I'm sure it's a mixture of both. But the feeling is like you go down as one person. I think it's just the literal sense that Jesus meant in the Bible as you're dying to yourself, and then when you come up out the water, you're just a new person. And that's how I felt. I honestly felt like I was a completely new person. So that was college. And of course, after college, life looks totally different. Like I have to now get into the rhythm of finding time for God, looking for work, navigating life as an actual adult, and just figuring life out. So after college, I ended up getting into a relationship. I had a man, my man. And Jesus was on the back burner. I was all about this man, consumed into this man. Like Jesus was, I was talking to him all the time. Like I was journaling, but the issues that I was pressing him about was issues with my relationship. It wasn't more towards what does God want from me. It was, I'm in this position, God. How can you help me where I'm at? Not, is this where I'm supposed to be at? I was in my relationship for 3 years, and it just got to the point where I could not do it anymore. Like I felt like it was so toxic, and I couldn't, like I just didn't recognize myself anymore, and I didn't want to continue to carry out or to live out my life in the manner that I was living. So I prayed, and I pressed Jesus, and I just told him that if he was to get me out of this situation, I would be so grateful. And it was so hard for me to leave because just the worldly factors that went on, like me and my ex, like we lived together and our bills were expensive individually, like for one person. So the way we split it up, like it worked for both of us. But if I was to take on these bills by myself, it was going to be very hard for me. And I think at the time too, I wasn't working. I left my job. So I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, and I finally got the courage to just walk away. I stayed in the house that, we rented together, and I just was like, Jesus, I need you to take care of me, because I don't know how I'm going to be able to manage what I had, what I had to pay, especially with no job. But I left it in God's hand, and he made it do what it do. And I want to be specific and like give numbers. So this was 2020. When did I leave this man? 2020 in the midst of a pandemic. So my rent at the time was $1,800. I had a 2-bedroom. I was living by myself. I had my rental space because I was doing lashes at the time. So I had like a spa. I had rent for that. And I believe that was $500. I had car insurance. I had light bill. I had trash. I had to pay for groceries. It was a lot. And it was new for me. And we had just renewed our lease. So we broke up as soon as we renewed our lease. So I had committed to being in this lease longer than what I wanted to be in, especially like not knowing that I was going to have to do it by myself. But my position was stay with this man, like have him live with you and help you pay the bills and just be miserable, or I can tell him to leave and I can just figure it out. So like I said, I prayed about it and I was like, God, I really don't want to be in this relationship anymore. I don't want to feel this way anymore. I want to be happy. I want to be, content with being alone, and I just want to feel loved. So God was like, release him. So I told him he had to leave. He found his own place or whatever. And I was like, okay, God, I'm following your word. Like, I need you to take care of me. So he did it. I was able to, pay my obligations on time and get out of my lease. And then after that, I moved back in with my mom for like 2 months. And then I found my own place. During the time of me deciding that I was going to leave him and moving back into my mom's place, like I hit at that moment like a state of my rock bottom, like what I consider rock bottom, and only because I was depressed and I didn't know it. And I figured it out from where I would be in the house by myself and I would just find myself crying, and I would call up my friends, and I just had to be like around people that made me happy. I remember I flew out to Georgia with Angie, my friend. I'm sure she'll be on here soon. But I flew out to Georgia with her, and I believe I stayed with her for like a week. Had a great time. And it was time for me to go home. And I go home and I'm crying. I'm depressed. I miss this, I miss my ex. I miss being with a partner. I didn't necessarily know how to be alone because I hadn't been alone for 3 years. Like, I had a boyfriend for 3 years, and my transition from that to being by myself, for me, it was hard. So I found myself crying, and I found myself going back to God. And I'm like, I know this is not how God wants me to experience life. And I just remember, like, something sparked in my head, and I just remembered that depression isn't a fruit. It's not a fruit of God. And I looked up in Galatians. Is it Galatians or Ephesians? One of them books. The fruits of the Spirit, and the fruits are love, it's joy, it's peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. And at the moment, I was feeling depressed, and I knew this wasn't from God, but in fact from the enemy. So when I was able to spot him out, I was able to change the way that I thought. So me changing, it was me getting into the gym. It was me reading the word. It was me hanging around my friends. It was me sitting down, writing a list of the things that made me happy and doing those things. And once I started to do that, then I realized, like, I just woke up one day and I was like, I'm content. I'm happy. Like, I'm genuinely happy with being by myself. And in order for me to get back involved in another relationship, it has to benefit me, and it has to make me want to not be in my own company, but in the company of somebody that I know can better me. So I'm still single. But now, like, it's different. I'm not in that state of where I want somebody or I'm lonely, but it's more of I'm focused. I'm doing what I feel like God has called me to do, and I'm genuinely happy. And like I said, like, if somebody wants to come in my circle, like, they have to better me. Like, I can't be in a situation where it's toxic. Like, I don't thrive in toxicity. Some people might do, but that's not me. Like, I thrive in healthy relationships. All my relationships are healthy. My friends that I still have, they're healthy. And if they're not, I cut them off. Whether it's friends, family members, I can't do it. Like, I only thrive in situations that are beneficial for me and that help me. So if the situation is not peaceful, if it's not love in there, if it's not joy, if it's not any of the spirits that I can pick up in that relationship, it has to go. So moving forward, I'm now in a new environment, like I'm in a new city, and of course, life has the life. Like, things have to come up. Like, I already know, like, nothing's going to be perfect. So get up here, I move, working, I'm just doing adult things. And it came a period in my life where I ended up quitting my job because it was, like I said, I don't thrive in toxicity. So I ended up quitting my job, and I was just pursuing, my passions, the things that I wanted to do. So doing that, and I ended up falling on hard times where I was working my job, and I noticed that I wasn't able to like pay my bills on time. So it was always me paying my bills late, and I don't like the person that does that. Like I didn't like that version of me where I had to pay my bills late. And I'm like, I'm working this job, I'm leaving this job, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, and I'm still late on my bills. So I decided that I was going to quit, and I was just going to figure life out on my own, because I see that I make more money not being on the clock than I did being on the clock, like working for myself. So in the period that I was working, I believe I was 1 month behind on my rent. I didn't have the money. So I wasn't stressed about it. I was like, I'll just pay them when I have it. Basically, I'll pay them when I have it. And I think it was like $100 late fee. I was like, I'll just have to add that onto it. And it ends up coming to the second month. And now not only do I not have the first month, but I don't have the second month. So now I'm 2 months behind on rent. And of course I'm getting in panic mode. So I'm like, okay, I need some money. Like I have to pay my bills. So the money that I am getting, I'm like using it to pay my other bills. And I just like didn't have money for rent. So I'm calling up people, calling up my cousins. They telling me to apply for, these programs to where I can get money and they'll help me pay for my bills. One of them was, I can't remember the name. I think it was like Our Florida or something like that. It was something from COVID where they were helping people pay their rents. And I had new people that did it. So and they were telling me like, I should do it. So I'm like, okay, bet, let me do it. Y'all, I'm filling out applications. I'm doing what the people telling me to do. And I'm just like getting denied. I'm calling up the companies, telling them, that I need help with my rent. And they just denying me. Like, I'm like, how are y'all getting it? And I'm not getting it. Like, they will not give me nothing. So I know people doing it. They're getting their rent paid for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, the rest of the year. And I'm like, bro, like, is y'all giving me the right site? Like, how are y'all getting y'all rent paid? But I can't get my rent paid. I'm the one that need it. So it's just not working. So now it gets to the third month. And from what I know, the third month is where they about to evict you. So I'm like, I need money. Like, I don't have money. But my heart posture changed. And it shifted from panicking and trying to get it done on my will to, Lord, I am your daughter and I don't have the means to do this. I need you to do it. Like, I need you to step in and I need you to take care of this. You said that if I worship you, I will always have a shelter over my head. I don't need to worry about anything of this world. I'm giving this bill to you. So like I said, y'all, I'm 3 months behind. And from my understanding, 3 months is when you about to get put out your place. But I shifted my posture and I'm like, I can't stress about this, because me stressing for the last 3 months hasn't changed anything. And I don't like the feeling of being stressed. So I just went from I'm stressed out to, Lord, I'm giving this to you and it's on you. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. It's on you. So y'all, we go from 3 months to 4 months. And I think the fourth month, like I had some money. So I ended up paying the fourth month, but I'm still behind 3 months. So 5th month come, my rent not paid. 6th month come and I'm moving. Like, I'm not stressed at this point, y'all. I'm not stressed at all. I'm like, God, you got this. And even if I was to get kicked out, like, I'm not gonna die. I woke up every day with the spirit of Thanksgiving, happy, waking up grateful for the day, praying, what I'm getting in today. Like, I'm making out my plans. I'm going to the beach. I'm being at peace. Like, I fully embraced and fully took on what it meant to experience love, joy, peace, patience. Like, I fully took on the spirit. Stress, that was not in my vocabulary. I wasn't doing it. Don't come to me with no problems. Even though I'm like, I'm like 4 months behind on my rent. Peaceful. Like, I'm going out with my friends and they can't even tell that I'm stressed out, because I'm literally this is the most peaceful I've been in my life. So Of course, it's like in the back of my mind, but I also know I'm not going to stress about that. So I think it's like y'all probably 5-6 months later right now. So I just prayed and I was led to fill out an application for something for, rental assistance. It was honestly God, because nobody told me about this. Nobody knew about this. And I just went searching, led by the Spirit, and I filled out this application, and they called me maybe a week later. So they called me and, they was asking me questions, and they were basically telling me they're going to pay the 6 months that I was behind on my rent. So I'm in a jubilant spirit, because I'm I just found a company to literally pay for my late fees, pay for my rent. I was 6 months behind. They paid for it. And not only did they just pay what I was behind and what I was my late fees, they paid for my rent 6 months in advance. I didn't cry, but I just was that was nothing but God. When he said he is Yahweh Jireh, he will provide, he meant that. And because I operated in the spirit of, I'm not going to stress about this. I'm not going to operate from a spirit of lack, but I'm going to operate from a spirit of abundance. And I'm going to leave this responsibility in my Father's hand. He honestly took care of me. I don't know nobody that could be 6 months behind on their rent and not get kicked out. But not only was I, like I said, I was 6 months behind, they paid that, but they also paid 6 months in advance on my rent. So I literally had a year of rent free, not having to pay my bills. And I can honestly say since then, God has been paying my rent since. When it comes to my bills, I don't even stress. I don't even worry about that, because I know he will provide. God has been paying my bills since. I don't pay my bills. Me taking responsibility for that? No. How y'all say we just live to pay bills and die? No. I live to live, and God is going to do that. So that was another experience that I had, where I just noticed God's hand was on my life. But I also had, many other things. I went through a season of breaking off relationships with close family members. I went through a season of, my close family members dying. So I experienced God in different ways. I experienced him as comforter, as provider, as peace, as joy, as judge. The things that I did that I knew weren't of God. I experienced him as a judge, and I experienced him as protector and my covering. But I'm entering into I've entered. I already stepped past. So I right now I entered into a season where not only that I know God as friend in all of these things, but now I know God as Lord. I know God as King. And what that means is Jesus is he's Lord over my life. He's really the King of my life. And I feel like God was setting me up in these different seasons and showing me his character, just so it can lead up to the point to where I'm at now. He needed to show me that he can provide for me, that he can comfort me, that he can protect me. He needed to show me those things so that I can come to the name that I have come to give him now, which is King or Lord. So I just wanted to share, some things that I've been through in my life, things that I'm going through, and just the place that I'm at now, to where I can experience God on a whole new level and with a whole new mindset. So now my life looks completely different. I'm not the girl that back then who was struggling with paying bills and struggling with family members, and I'm a whole new person. And now it's because I know who I am now, and I know who my Father is, and I know what he has told me, not only about God, but who he has told me about myself. I came to learn what God's intent was in creating us, and the power that he gave us and how we lost it. And I know now that Jesus came to give us that power back. So I wanted to take you all on a journey of discovering not only who God is, but you are, and giving it to you through the lens of what it means to be a kingdom citizen. So we're going to start off with just understanding concepts of what it means to be a daughter or a son of a king. And I want you to come in with an open mind. Don't be closed-minded. And of course, I'm not going to be the end all be all. Like, I want you to go into your word and to read. But we're just going to go through what it means to be raised in royalty and a daughter of a king. So I want to thank you for listening to my first episode of God's Favorite Podcast. And I hope you come back for more, because we're going to be diving deep. Like Lil Baby say, how we get so deep so fast? That's going to be us. Like, we're going to be going over just the concept of being in a kingdom and what it means to be a kingdom citizen. So I will be talking to y'all soon, and I just hope you enjoy your day. Bye.